Hello everyone, my name is Robn Bacchus. I am an artist and educator, teaching and traveling in my mobile art studio. For many years, I have been on a return to roots journey and am inspired to continue with my dream of traveling to my father's home country, Guyana. But where did this dream come from, and how did it manifest into me traveling cross country in an old ambulance? I've created this video to share my story and hope that it inspires you to follow and support my journey. So I grew up in Southern California, spent my childhood in the Mojave Desert, then moved to Long Beach to get my degree and start teaching, which has always been my dream job. I've been fortunate to have many amazing travel experiences so far in my young life. When I was 18, I had the opportunity to live with a family in Gujarat, India, while working as a village English teacher. I once spent a day exploring ancient caves and waterfalls in Puerto Rico with a native Taino brother. I've couch surfed through southern Europe. I've spent 6 months backpacking in Southeast Asia, which included a motorbike tour from the top to the bottom of Vietnam. One of my more impressive stories is when I flipped my car in the outback of Australia and then hitchhiked around the country, which led me to working as a sign painter on the Australian music festival circuit. True story. But one of the most important moments of my travels and of my life happened in New Zealand. I had been traveling for about 2 years at this point and was sharing my story with a very powerful and wise Maori uncle. He listened, then asked me a life-changing question. But do you know your whakapapa? Whakapapa is your genealogy, your ancestry, your heritage. He said, how can you know where you're going if you don't know where you've been? He reminded me that knowing my roots and connecting with family was not just important, but necessary. This interaction is what inspired me to come home to California in 2019 with the intention of reconnecting with my homeland, the community, and most importantly, my family. I had a lot of healing to do, a lot of listening and learning. With my mom and her family, I practiced acceptance, understanding, and forgiveness. Like many of us, I was unpacking generational wounds and opening my heart for love and connection. With my father, I had an interesting challenge. Growing up, I knew very little of my dad and his heritage. He looked black, but he cooked Indian and had a very strange accent. I knew he was from a country in South America called Guyana, but it wasn't until I was an adult that I understood Guyana as a Caribbean nation. And it wasn't until recently that I understood my heritage as a Dougla, which is a person of African and Indian descent. Then it made sense why Indian people were always asking me, where in India is your family from? I didn't even know I was Indian, but they always said they could tell just by looking at me. So that's why Uncle's words resonated so deeply. I've always known there's this whole half of me that I know nothing about. And once I started asking my dad questions, looking up photos, listening to the stories, I found out some pretty amazing things. My grandfather was a doctor for UNICEF who traveled the world serving and healing others. As a child, my dad had the experience of traveling with him. He's told me stories about floating down the Essequibo River, stopping at indigenous communities along the way to give aid. I have a dream of following that path, but more on that later. So these past few years, I've been learning so much about Guyanese culture, I can't get enough. I'm following all the Guyanese influencers and meme pages, listening to soca playlists, learning to make roti, even trying to grow a wiri wiri pepper plant. Because when I connect to this culture, it feels like a deep knowing. When I'm learning more about my roots, I'm learning more about myself and my purpose. So naturally, I've been planning a trip to Guyana. In 2020, my plan was to fly to Argentina to participate in the Solar Eclipse Festival, visit Brazil to intern with a permaculture community, then travel to Guyana, where my dad would actually join me for his first time being home in over 30 years. But there was other work to be done here in my homeland, namely supporting the community during the global pandemic. I was fortunate to rejoin the Westerly School community as an art teacher, helping students express and create during one of the most important years of education. I've also had the opportunity to lead my Grow Club program, which is a curriculum I've been developing that combines hands-on gardening with social emotional learning. I've been so grateful for this opportunity to be riding out the waves in my favorite city on earth, Long Beach. But my heart is being pulled. I don't want to give up this dream of visiting Guyana, retracing my family's history. I would love to connect with educators and artists in Guyana, contribute in local schools and communities, and continue to develop my experience and leadership. But I can't just fly straight there, of course. I have to make an adventure of it. One of my big recent projects has been building a tiny home on wheels. I invested in this ambulance in 2019, moved in with just a yoga mat and a stove, and have been slowly converting her to serve as my mobile art studio. It's been fun crafting this tiny home by hand, learning as I go, making it not only my space, but a vehicle I can do my art with. I've had a few opportunities to bring her to festivals, but I've been excited to do a big trip. So my plan is to drive from Los Angeles to Florida. That's where my dad's mom lives. My grandma and I unfortunately never had a close relationship, but now I understand how important it is to connect with my elders, to hear their story, and to soak up their wisdom. So my grandma feels like an important key in this trip. So I'm aiming my intention in that direction, taking Ambo across the country, going slowly, reconnecting with friends and family and fellow nomads along the way. But I'm also aware of our current global situation, the threats of the pandemic and climate crisis. So I'm committed to not only traveling lightly and responsibly, but continuing to help in the building of a stronger future through teaching, learning, serving, and creating while on the road. If you've been following my travels for some time, you know I've had some pretty amazing and even mind-blowing experiences. A common feedback I get from friends is that they wish I would share more about my travels and do more updates from the road. And I agree. I often want to share more, but second guess myself. Growing up in the internet age, I'm really sensitive to overexposure. I fear posting too much or coming off as fake. I value privacy and see social media as an enemy of authenticity. I've also had some of my most beautiful life experiences while disconnected from devices. But I also know how important storytelling is and how cool and unique my story is. So I'm committed to staying connected through this journey. I am growing weary of surveillance social media and want to step away from platforms that use and abuse and take power away from artists and creators. So I've started a Patreon. Even just saying those words, I feel a tinge of shame, like, who am I to ask for support? Why would anyone want to support me? But I allow those feelings to simply pass through me, remembering I am worthy, my art is worthy, my dreams are worthy. And as I continue to pour myself into the universe through teaching, serving, making art, connecting with community, sharing experience, taking care of the land, building a stronger future, I trust my needs will be taken care of too. So if you'd like to follow my journey, to invest in my homecoming, and support my dreams, Patreon is a platform where you can do that. Through Patreon, you subscribe to a tier and in return receive art and content from me. Other ways to support me is to commission my work either virtually or in person. Virtually, I'll be holding weekly meetings and groups, and I'm available for art therapy and mentorships. In person, I'm hoping to connect with events and festivals along my way to Florida. If you'd like to have Art Ambo at your next gathering, please reach out. Ambo is fully equipped to arrive on site and lead group art making through workshops, murals, spin art, and more. You can see all my availabilities and possibilities by visiting my website.
If you've made it this far in the video, thank you for your time and your attention. I am so grateful for those who have encouraged me to put myself out there and proudly walk my path. And I am humbled by any level of support and commitment. So please consider joining my Patreon. It provides me with the food, the gas, and the art supplies I need to keep going. Big love to everyone, and I hope to cross paths with you very soon.